Chapter 12. The Wedding. Adriana. Adriana gave Sterling a shy smile before looking at her own reflection in the mirror. She was wearing the dress which had been picked out yesterday. It was rose color with lace over the satin. While the bodice was opaque, the lace came to her collarbone with a scalloped edge and continued down her arms. It was beautiful. It made her skin look creamy rather than deathly pale, like her uncle's choice of dress had done. Her mother had quibbled a little over the lace showing her skin underneath, but a few words of encouragement from Parker's mother Dottie had solved that. Considering what some other brides were trying on dresses which showed nearly all their cleavage, it had not taken much to convince Adriana's mother this dress was far better. Adriana wasn't a vain person. How could she be when she was not chosen by any of the men in her community? However, in this dress, with her hair having been tortured during the night in curlers, she felt that she measured up at least a little. She looked pretty, she decided. Of course, Sterling looked beautiful, like a bride should. She had a gauzy white gown which looked like it belonged on a Greek statue. Her blonde hair was swept up in an elaborate style bun, and her makeup was perfect. Adriana didn't wear makeup. It was considered vanity in her culture. So were high-heeled shoes, bare skin, and a few other things that she had noticed seemed to be the norm here. Adriana felt like life might be very different here in America. Then again, perhaps she could overlook a few things. She wanted to fit in and have Parker be happy with her. "You look beautiful," reassured Sterling as she came to stand beside Adriana. She touched up her lip gloss. Adriana felt Sterling looked beautiful as a bride. It was true Adriana looked pretty, but Sterling surely outshone her. It made her feel a little like a girl playing dress-up again. Yet she was no longer a girl. She was a bride today. "You're the one who looks beautiful." "Thank you," warmly replied Sterling. "Thank you as well for sharing the day with me. I know it was supposed to be Brittany and Gabe getting married. I feel awful for them, since they're having problems, and hope that they can come to some sort of reconciliation soon. However, I'm so very grateful Jake and I can get married. We've been trying to tie the knot for over a month, but it seems like something is always getting in the way." Adriana wasn't certain what she was supposed to say in response to that. She didn't know who Gabe and Brittany were. Adriana supposed she might have met them at dinner last night. There had been so many people, she simply couldn't remember everyone. She looked around the room for inspiration and stumbled across the fact that there were 3 mirrors. "Is there not supposed to be another bride? Is she late?" Sterling had a surprised look. "You're right. Marshall is getting married today as well. No one seems to know much about her. I wonder where she is." Adriana had a nervous glance at the clock on the wall. "The ceremony will start soon." "I do hope she makes it," frowned a concerned Sterling. "Jake said Marshall was boasting about how wonderful she is and how he was looking forward to being married to her." There was a knock on the door. Sterling and Adriana exchanged a startled look before the door slowly opened. "Is this the correct room?" a breathless woman asked. She was wearing a white ball gown with a frothy tulle skirt and a sweetheart neckline. She brushed her dark hair out of her way and grinned happily. "The Ramsley wedding." "Yes," smiled Sterling in welcome. "You must be Marshall's bride. I must say we've all been quite curious about you." "My name is Jasmine." She came forward, shaking hands with Sterling with one hand, while her other hand held a pair of white sneakers. "I was so worried I was going to be late." "Sterling, I'm marrying Jake." Sterling gestured to Adriana. "This is Parker's bride, Adriana." "Nice to meet you," said Adriana as she carefully shook Jasmine's hand. This woman would be her brother-in-law's wife. They would be sisters in essence. Adriana hoped she would like Jasmine. "You as well," replied a smiling Jasmine. "Oh, I am so excited. I finally get to meet all the people Marshall has been talking about for the past 3 years." 3 years? A surprise Sterling echoed. "Oh, yes," giggled Jasmine. "He and I have been friends for nearly 3 years now." "Well, we're glad we get to share the day with you," graciously said Sterling. Jasmine plopped down on a chaise, battling the tulle of her gown out of the way. "Thank goodness I have time to put on my shoes. I thought if I was too late, I might have to go down the aisle in bare feet. The traffic was a nightmare, and I admit I was running behind schedule with my last surgery before leaving the hospital. I thought my cousin Priya was going to go ballistic when we almost missed the flight at the airport." There was another knock on the door. An attendant stepped into the room. "It's time, ladies." Adriana swallowed down the sudden butterflies in her stomach. She took a deep breath. This was what she wanted. Parker was more than she had hoped for. She could only hope to be worthy of him. Jasmine quickly double-knotted the laces on her second sneaker before standing with a grin. "Let's get married!" Sterling smiled and handed each of them their bouquets from the side table. "Congratulations." Adriana tried to smile back and hope she wasn't shaking too noticeably from nerves. Since Parker was the oldest of the three, she was supposed to go first down the aisle. Adriana fervently wished Jasmine or Sterling had been selected to go first. Somehow it would have been easier to follow one of the other women. What if she were to stumble or do something wrong? Trying to breathe evenly, she followed the attendant who had the brides pause outside a curtained area. Adriana could hear beautiful instrumental music coming from behind the curtain. There would be people there, guests, her family, the grooms, the pastor, all waiting for them to enter. Adriana blinked back black dots and wished she had eaten more for breakfast, even though she had been too nervous to eat more than half a slice of toast with her tea. Suddenly, the curtain was drawn back enough for her to enter. People were staring at her. There was a sea of faces and formal wear. The flowers were nearly overpowering in their fragrances. Or perhaps there were too many perfumes all at once. The chandeliers and sconces shone in opulence. The thick carpet sunk under her first tentative step. Adriana nearly panicked before she caught sight of Parker at the front of the aisle. He gave her a small nod, looking serious and handsome in his wedding finery. Drawing in a breath she had not realized she needed, Adria focused on him, stepping forward. One foot in front of the other, she was going towards her future. Then suddenly she was there, standing in front of the man she was going to marry. Parker held out his hand and she took it, touching him for the first time. His hand was warm and slightly rough. She was surprised he had calluses. Adriana had only seen him in suits and had been told he was an important man in managing a hospital chain. It didn't seem like the type of job where hard labor was required. Adriana supposed there would be lots of little surprises in her future. Parker led her to their place at the front. He bent long enough to whisper in her ear, "You look lovely." Adriana blushed, pleased by the compliment. She was also pleased he kept hold of her hand, even as the other brides took their places with their grooms. She drew courage from the contact. The preacher cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here to witness the vows between Parker and Adriana, Marshall and Jasmine, Jake and Sterling. Marriage is a commitment between two individuals to show love, compassion, respect, and perseverance through the good and the bad." Adriana let the words wash over her. Before she knew it, she and Parker were facing each other. A young boy, one of his cousin's sons, had given Parker a ring, which he was placing on her finger while repeating the words from the preacher. "I, Parker, take thee, Adriana." Then it was her turn. With shaking fingers, Adriana took the proffered ring from the boy, holding it ready to slip onto Parker's left hand. She softly repeated, "I, Adriana, take thee, Parker." Then the vows were said, and the rings were on. Adriana and Parker patiently watched the other couples take their turns through the ritual. "Grooms, you may now kiss your brides," the pastor informed them. Suddenly feeling nervous, Adriana looked down at the floor. While she had expected a kiss, This was to be her first. Somehow it had a special significance. She was now a married woman. Her breath hitched as Parker gently cupped her face, then brushed his lips over hers. He straightened, drawing her arm through his. It was a good kiss, she decided. Everything she could expect in front of an audience of wedding guests. Modest, yet lovely. She would cherish it. All three couples signed the necessary marriage license documents. Then Parker led her down the aisle and to the appointed place where the couples were to greet their guests and accept congratulations. Adriana clasped tightly to Parker's arm. She wasn't certain of the rules, if she was supposed to participate in the handshakes. With her culture, it wouldn't even be a question. No woman would dare touch a man she wasn't directly related or married to. Yet smiles and nods seemed to suffice as Parker shook hands, and everyone was in a pleased mood over the day's events. Adriana was rather happy as well. She could admit to herself she had worried Parker would cancel the wedding. She had even had an anxious dream last night he had deemed her too imperfect and sent her back home. Her heart had been skipping all morning, undecided between dread her dream might come true and joy it all seemed to be happening. Now she was a wife. She need not worry about going back home with her uncles and cousins. Her life was now here, beside Parker. They were to have some pictures taken with the photographer. Parker put a hand to her back as they followed Jake with Sterling and Marshall with Jasmine to where the photographer directed them. Yes, Adriana reflected, this was more than she had ever hoped for. Addison. Addison had a quick look around the hall to be certain no one else was there. A cleaning lady was going in and out of a room, getting supplies from her cart. Addison pretended to look at her phone while she waited for the woman to go back inside the suite. It was risky to meet up like this when the entire hotel was crawling with her family. Addison knew she was asking for trouble, but she had been unable to go without for the entire weekend. At least she had insisted on waiting until after the wedding. She could disappear for perhaps an hour while the photos were being taken and return, no one the wiser. Once the cleaning lady went inside one of the rooms, Addison quickly rapped her knuckles on a door. Putting her phone away, she had another discreet look around to make sure no one would see her. The door opened. Not waiting for an answer, Addison stepped inside the suite, shutting the door behind her. The man in front of her leaned forward, locking it. He brushed a strand of hair out of her face, before cupping her face in both palms with a sigh. We cannot keep doing this. Agreed, whispered Addison. I mean it, Ads. He leaned his forehead against hers. The sneaking around, meeting up in hotels, I need it to stop. This isn't any sort of life for either of us. I know I agreed to this. I know I said I could handle it just to have any peace you were willing to give me. But I can't continue the way we are. I understand, murmured Addison as she raised her hands to smooth out his linen shirt. It's not fair to either of us. His thumb trailed over her lower lip. I want to be able to take you to dinner. I want to be able to hold hands with you as we walk down the street together. I want to be able to kiss you in public. He will consider it a betrayal, warned Addison as she began unbuttoning his shirt. I don't care, he muttered as he kissed her temple. You don't know him as I do. Fear crept into her voice. I will protect you, he vowed as he drew back a little, looking into her eyes. Reaching behind his neck, he undid the long gold chain, slipping off 3 rings. Taking her left hand, he slipped on the engagement and wedding ring. I made a promise the day we were married. I'm worried about you, she confessed. What he will do to you when he finds out? That I love you? That we're married? He questioned wryly as he put on his own ring. If we go public, there would be little he could do. At most, he can sue us for breach of non-competition. He won't sue, she admonished softly. He prefers his revenge hands-on. He paused as a thought occurred to him. Assessing her, he asked carefully, Are you going to leave me? No. She bit her lip, confessing. I thought about it a few times. How if I did, I could protect you.
I'm not asking you to protect me, he mildly admonished.
I can't leave you. She smiled tremulously. I don't want to leave you.
Good.
He sighed in relief, leaning forward to kiss her.
Please don't ever think about leaving me again. You are my world, Ads.
She had a nervous laugh. Your world is about to expand. He nibbled along her jawline.
How so?
I'm pregnant, breathed Addison. He stilled.
You're...
We're going to have a baby, softly spoke Addison. I did the test last night. You're a dad.
A dad?
He spoke the words with wonder. Pulling back and searching her face, he smiled.
That makes you a mom.
She nodded happily.
Then we definitely cannot continue doing this, he firmly told her. I'm not meeting our son or daughter in hotel rooms on the weekends.
No, agreed Addison. I'm not asking you to. Just give me a little more time. I need to figure out how to do damage control.
Soon,
he warned. She nodded. Soon. With a swift and sure motion, he picked her up, heading for the bed as she gave a laugh of joy.
FBI agent Bill Kepler.
Freeze the frame, requested Agent Kepler of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The picture was grainy, the man wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. It was going to be difficult, but not impossible, to get an ID on the guy. Kepler had the distinct feeling he had seen this man before. He handed the security guard a business card.
Cut a copy of the picture and email it to this address. You said the man paid cash for the room?
Yes, sir. The security guard nodded.
I checked the records at the front desk. It was cash for a Mr. Jones, no first name. I thought all the guests were required to put a credit card on file as a guarantee for any damages caused, observed Kepler. Prepaid Visa with a $10,000 limit, explained the man. This probably isn't the first time he's gone anonymous at a hotel, whoever he is. What room is it again? Questioned Kepler. 438, replied the security guard. Kepler made a quick note on his notepad. That's not her room. Correct, the guy agreed. She's obviously having an affair with some dude. Kepler's cold eyes turned to the man beside him. The Ramsleys own the hotel you're working at. Specifically, her family does. I would be very careful what you say about them. The security guard nervously cleared his throat. Yes, sir. I'm done here for now. Kepler straightened. If you see anything suspicious, call me. Agent Kepler didn't wait for a response. He headed out of the hotel's security office. Pulling his cell phone out, he called in to the bureau. Have you got the information for me? Really, Bill? You've barely given me time to look through the data you gave me, reprimanded the voice on the line. I need to know. Things have changed, as you can understand. A terse Kepler replied to the agent he had given the research job to. Have you told the widow yet? The researcher asked. Soon enough, bit off Kepler. He didn't like it when people involved themselves in his cases, or worse, tried to tell him what to do. Any connection on the Pacui family? None. The family is clean. It looks like Mr. Parker Ramsley is sponsoring his new bride's immediate family into the country. The male relatives will be returning home today. They all have return tickets with the local airline, noted the researcher. Why are you researching them anyways? I thought James Ramsley was going to prison for his part in the scheme on the condition his kids were granted immunity. Always cover your bases, Kepler said before he ended the call. Making his way toward the elevator, Kepler spied Marshall and Parker Ramsley walking away from their brother Gabriel. Gabe had been the one not to get married today. He watched as Gabe leaned against a column, looking at the pretty courtyard. Room 438 could wait, decided Kepler. It might be more expedient to catch the lovers in the act,
but he suspected the man wasn't going anywhere just yet. He had reserved the entire weekend, just like the rest of the Ramsleys. Ignoring the open elevator, Kepler went to stand beside Gabe. "It's a beautiful view," Kepler opened the conversation with, not really meaning it, "even if it's all covered in snow." Kepler could feel Gabe turn his gaze toward him, even as Kepler continued to look out the window. "What do you want?" "What a way to greet me!" Kepler turned icy blue eyes to Gabe. "You skipped right over all the formalities. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?" "You don't strike me as the formalities type." Gabe narrowed his eyes. "I think you'd much rather get to the point." "True." Kepler had a small smile. He enjoyed getting under people's skins. "Passports." "Excuse me?" asked Gabe, a little confused by the sudden change in direction of the conversation. "Tomorrow morning I want the groom's passports," stated Kepler, idly picking at a piece of non-existent lint from his sleeve. He didn't actually need Marshall or Parker's passports. However, with the latest development in the case, he wasn't going to let any opportunities go to waste. The courts were about to issue the warrants for the passports, and whatever else he decided to seize. All Kepler had to do was be patient. And set the bait for a little trap. "You're kidding," frowned Gabe. "They're about to go on their honeymoons. This is harassment." "No." Kepler had a satisfied smile, his eyes still hard. "It's a court order. One that will be issued early tomorrow morning. In fact, I would like everyone in the entire Ramsley family to have their passports ready and in hand so I can obtain them. This way, no one gets any ideas about fleeing the country before my investigation is concluded. I figure if you give them a heads up, it will be easier to collect them in the morning. If anyone has any ideas to make a break for it, they should think twice. The resort is being watched by some of the Bureau's finest." "This is ridiculous." Gabe shook his head in disbelief. "Why now? Why this weekend, at the wedding? You could have easily done this at any time, but you chose tomorrow morning. You're not going to intimidate us this way, Kepler." "Says the man who recently resigned from his position," shrugged Kepler, unconcerned. "Finding it a little difficult in the hot seat of the family business lately?" "I've resigned for personal reasons," scowled Gabe. "Whatever you say." Kepler looked Gabe over, seeing far more than what Gabe would have liked. "Just get the passports available tomorrow morning. I would hate to embarrass the family by having this leak out to the press if anyone decides not to cooperate." "I am going to find out who your supervisor is and inform them you were harassing us," Gabe advised him. "By all means, Mr. Ramsley." Kepler didn't even blink at the threat. "Have a nice day." He walked away, entirely satisfied with the conversation. Kepler even whistled a jaunty little tune for effect. He was certain it would get under Gabriel Ramsley's skin. I hope you enjoyed listening to this chapter of The Wedding, Book 10 of the Ramsley Brothers series. Look for the next chapter on YouTube. Please also consider sharing or liking this video. This helps with the algorithms and is free for you to do and helps my channel. Thank you and happy listening.